In the previous videos, we were talking about how to find the measures of center, such as mode, mean, and median, from a data set that was not grouped. But the question is, how do we find those measures of center if our data is already summarized into a frequency table? So let's take a look. And in a frequency table, usually it looks something like this. So these are student heights, and they're summarized into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups or classes. And then, as a reminder, you find a midpoint is a representative of that class. And each class has a frequency. So original data is not available. We don't know what those values were, right? We just know that we had three values between the values of 60 and 63. Now, what were they? Were they all maybe 61, or maybe some were 60, like 160 and 263s, or anything in between? We don't know. All we know that there were three frequencies, three values in this range. So that's why we're gonna find the midpoint, which is a midpoint of this class, which will be representative of all of those three values. So in other words, we're gonna pretend that all three values had that value of 61.5. Okay, so let's start with the mode. Okay, and the mode is the midpoint. Right, so uh, therefore, we're gonna call the mode is the value that occurs most often, most frequently, right? So we pick out the frequency that's the highest out of all, right? So, and also if all frequencies are the same, then we say there are no modes. Okay, so here's an example. What is the highest frequency? It's in class 3. The representative value of the class is 67.5. So this is the value that we have the most, or occurs the most. So we're going to say that the mode for this frequency distribution is 67.5. So the mode for this frequency distribution is 67.5. So the next question is, how do we find the mean of the frequency distribution? Again, we don't have original data values, but we know that we have this many values, which representative value is x sub 1. So what we're going to do, we're going to multiply that value by the frequency, and we're going to multiply the next one by its frequency and the next one by its frequency, and we're going to go through the entire table. We're going to add them up, and we're going to divide by the total number of values, n, which is the sum of all of the frequencies. So this is our value n. Okay, so that's the formula basically for finding the mean of the distribution. We could also write it in our notation. It's the sum of the products of each x by its frequency, divide by n, where we could also write n as a sum of frequencies. So instead of n, we could write sum of all frequencies. Okay, example. Let's practice. What is it going to look like? So we have 61.5 times 3 plus 64.5 times 3 again plus 67.5 times 5 plus 70.5 times 2 plus 73.5 times 1. Now, what's the total? What's the sum of all the frequencies? That's going to be equal to 14. So we're going to divide everything by 14. So I got a total of 930 divided by 14, which is approximately around to 3 decimal places, will be 66.429. Okay, so our next measure of center that we discussed was median. How to find the median of the frequency distribution. Okay, it says when n is odd, the median is the midpoint of the first class for which the cumulative frequency exceeds n minus 1 divided by 2. So we need to figure out the cumulative frequency of each class and look for the class whose cumulative frequency exceeds n minus 1 divided by 2. That's going to be your median. And when n is even, the median is the average of the midpoint of the first class for which the cumulative frequency exceeds n divided by 2 minus 1, and then midpoint of the first class for which the cumulative frequency exceeds n divided by 2. So this one, n divided by 2 reduced by 1, and here's just n divided by 2. And often both of these are same midpoints. Very rarely they're going to be in different classes. Now, these are the rules. If you want to memorize the rules, go ahead. If you want to go by the rules, I'm going to show you in the next example, I'm going to just show how to do it using common sense. Like, how do you make a sense out of the median in the frequency distribution? So it says, consider the following frequency distribution for the student heights. Find the median, right? So let's go ahead and find cumulative frequencies for each class. So the cumulative frequency for the first class is 3. Then for the next one, it's 3 plus 3 is 6. For the next one, 6 plus 5 is 11. The next one, 11 plus 2 is 13, and 14. And remember, we said that before that the cumulative frequency of the last class should be the same as n. All right. So we have 14 values. Remember, before we were finding the place of the median, and we used the formula n plus 1 divided by 2. So here we're going to have 14 plus 1 divided by 2. So that's 15 divided by 2. That's 7.5, right? 7.5. So our median is the average of value number 7 and value number 8. Again, this is not, this is the place of the median. This is not the median value. We don't have 7s and 8s among our values, right? This is the location of the median. So we're looking for value number 7. If we were to basically organize these values from the smallest to the largest, we're looking for the one that's 7th in that row and the 8th in that row. Okay, so where are those values? So we have 3 values in the first class, 3 in the second, so that's 6 altogether. Now in the next one, we have 5 values. So that would be a total of 11, right? So we already passed our 7th and the 8th value. So since we have 6 values here, so the 7th and the 8th should be in here in this class 3. And so basically we have to average out the values the 7th and the 8th values in this class, but we don't know what they are. The representative value for this class is 67.5, so we assume that all of them are 67.5. So the 7th value is 67.5, and the 8th value is also 67.5. So basically that's your median. So the median for this frequency distribution is 67.5. So we could use the formulas that we learned earlier for the median. N+1 divided by 2, that's the place of the median, and basically pick out those numbers from the frequency distribution. That's all you have to do. I don't know if you recognized this data set, but it's the same data set that we found the mean, mode, and median of using StatCrunch and calculator. So let's compare what we got. Okay, so here's a table. This is, we have measures of mean, median, and mode, and from the original data and from the frequency table. So the mean of the original data was 66.071, and the frequency table is 66.429. Now, the median of the original data was 66, from the frequency table 67.5. The mode, well, in the original data, it said there are multiple modes, and for the frequency table, we had the mode of 67.5. Now, as you can see, these values are close, but they're still off. Let's discuss why. Well, the thing is, when your data is organized in a table, it's approximation, right? So just like we discussed before. So for example, we know we have 3 values in this class, but we don't know what they are. We pretend that they're all 61.5, even though they were not originally. So that is why when we find the average and we use the midpoints instead of the original delta values, essentially we are approximating, right? Same thing about the median. What about the mode? Okay, if we go back and we look at our data, original data, here I have a bar graph of that of the frequencies of each value. So as you can see, we have most values appear only once, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 values that appear twice, and that's why it has no mode. But then for our frequency distributions, we have, well, if we are looking at values from 66 to 69, 66 to 69, that's the group that has most values in it. So there's 2 and 2, and then 1 and 1. Okay, so this one is actually, we don't count the 69 because it's the endpoint. Endpoints are not included. So 2 and 2 and 1. So 5 values. That group is the biggest group. That's why. All right, so that concludes our lesson about frequency, mean measures of center from frequency distributions, and I'll see you in the next video.